Well, hello everybody. It's the Gary Neville podcast at the end or towards the end of what has been a meaty Premier League weekend. There's been an awful lot happening, not the least of which occurred here at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. A most remarkable game of football in which Tottenham seemed frankly dead and buried 2-0 down at half time and rescued a point which has, Gary, all sorts of ramifications.
Tottenham first.
Why not?
I mean, I thought they were done half-time. Not just done in the game, by the way. I was like, I know a Tottenham fan pretty well. He said that he's been coming for 40 years as a season ticket holder and he's not been as disillusioned in that time. It was eerie. The atmosphere from minute one in the game was non-existent. It's as if they just switched off, the Tottenham fans, almost as if like they're completely and utterly, they're turning up because it's what they do, it's what football fans do. But there was nothing there, nothing on the pitch at all, no energy in the crowd. And such a stark difference from what you believe a Thomas Frank team is. And at half-time we were talking and I just thought, this is not going to go on very long. This is a massive struggle and you feel then sad because you know sort of what's coming. And I thought City in the first half, to be fair, were in second gear. I didn't think the City were playing brilliantly well. I thought at times they were a little bit complacent. What we've just seen in that second half is a reflection of Tottenham's character, that Thomas Frank has got something out of them, simplifying the game. A back four that really should have been caused all sorts of problems, but weren't. They really stood up, Archie Gray and I think Paulinho on that right side of the defence in particular, who were out of position. I thought they were fantastic in that second half. Conor Gallagher in midfield I thought was very good. And then just putting a front two. Maybe we'll discuss front twos in this podcast because we saw Pablo and Castellanos for West Ham last night. We saw then Delap and João Pedro in the second half. And then obviously today we've seen Kolo Muani and Dominic Solanke. It's as if centre-backs can't deal with simple things. Playing the ball forward, getting it into their chest, putting balls into the box. It's returning. There's no doubt the game is swinging and we're going to probably start seeing more pairs emerge in this next 12 months. I can see it happening. The 4 games I've watched this weekend, the fourth one that I've not mentioned is in League 2, Salford. They also play with a pair of strikers and they're good too. And they're a handful, and I just love seeing it. I absolutely do. There was nothing worse than I think playing centre-back when you had a pair of tough strikers. The first pair of strikers that I ever played against in the A-team when I was younger was Graham Sharp and Ian Marshall. And they were playing for Oldham, I think, at the time. And they were in the Oldham's A-team or reserves or whatever it was, and they remember beating me and Chris Casper up. And always thinking, gee, that was hard work and our youth team coach killing us. But you see Kolo Muani and Solanke in that second half just mauling Kusananoff and causing Gay problems. Last night, the same with the 2 pairs of centre-forwards. But what we've seen in this second half is the Tottenham fans at the end of the game clapping. And that's nice to see because I thought it was going to be a very dark second half, actually, and moody. And I thought that this stadium would be empty at 75 minutes. So it's completely and utterly bizarre. What you have to say is that you can't say it's something to build off for Thomas Frank, obviously the European performances as well, but he needed to start doing something here in the domestic games in the Premier League because it's been such poor form. They only won 2 games, I think, here all season. That's not changed today, but they can maybe go in tonight. They've got a lot of injuries, which is a massive factor, and then pick themselves up. They've got Manchester United here next Saturday. Yes. They have. So, big game coming up next Saturday.
At Old Trafford.
Oh, it's at Old Trafford,
yeah.
Sorry. It's at Old Trafford next Saturday. We haven't got that game, have we? No. So, I think, yeah, a bit of relief for Thomas Frank because I think he's a really good manager and I really like him. I really like what he did at Brentford. I thought his teams epitomised character, spirit, energy, fight, aggression, physicality. The total and complete opposite of what I felt here in that first half, but they've shown a bit of that in the second half, and maybe there is a formula. Solanke went off injured towards the end, so I might be speaking too soon, but maybe there is a formula of playing 2 up top and just being really aggressive and going for it and simplifying the game back and putting crosses in the box, getting Conor Gallagher and Basuma and Sarr pressing onto people and just basically being quite physical. Dropping the sort of passes from the back from Vicario into your own 6-yard box. I'm sure I actually saw him pass the ball backwards at one point in the first half from the 6-yard box back to the byline, which is just bizarre in the position that you're in. So, yeah, a completely and utterly unexpected game today. And from Manchester City, nowhere near good enough. nowhere near good enough. In the first half as well, when you look back, they were in second gear and should have killed that game off. I mean, a Pep Guardiola team, those fans over there in that far corner, those Manchester City fans have seen some of the best teams that you'll see. They know when it's not right, and they know when things aren't quite there, and they're not got that killer instinct. They struggle when teams put them under pressure with high pressing, put them under pressure on the ball, put them under pressure with regards to crosses and set pieces and balls going into the box, and they don't stand up to it and they don't withstand that pressure. They haven't got the Diaz, Company, Sesko, whatever it is, those centre-backs that are going to be going dominant. It should have suited Kasanov and Gay in the second half, Kolomoani and Solanke. They should have been really be able to deal with them, but they didn't do. The Gay header wasn't great for the second goal. Nico Gonzalez isn't great. He's slow getting to the ball and reacting on this side here, and Conor Gallagher's in on him. Nico O'Reilly gets caught up in that as well. So just second best, and allowing teams to re-emerge in games, allowing teams to get encouragement, and that's going to cause them a massive problem in respect of, being on the shoulder of Arsenal, because Arsenal can physically withstand pressure. They've gone to Leeds yesterday and they've done really well to win that game 4-0, but Leeds put you under pressure, and I don't think this City team right now, in midfield or at the defence, it's been the same all season. They just haven't got that rock-solid spine that you think can go and win a title, and this Manchester City team and this manager know how to win a title as good as any, but they're letting you down time and time again, and I can see the sort of disappointment and frustration on Pep Guardiola's face. So a good day in the end for Spurs, but a lot of soul searching to do, I think, for City and for Pep Guardiola in respect of where they're currently at, because they're not there. And I really think he would have fancied in this last week or so, since Manchester United got beat by Arsenal, that come on, with 14 games left here, 15 games left obviously before today, 14 games left now, half time he'll have been thinking, this sends a message, 4 points, let's just kick on here. Let's stay on the shoulder. 8 games to go, and are they going to be there? That's the question. Are they going to be there on the shoulder of Arsenal? That's a question that I'm not sure of the answer, because at the moment they look well short, City.
Yeah, we'll come back to Arsenal and Chelsea. I just want to ask you one more on Tottenham. You speak a lot about, in the context of Manchester United in recent years, DNA and being Manchester United. And I was quite surprised with the Tottenham supporters, given how dark a place they had been in, how it only took one half and they were cheered up. They were ready to walk out on 75 minutes, and that didn't happen. All it seemed to take, from their perspective, was 45 minutes of a team they want to recognise. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you think of the Tottenham DNA, of historic DNA, you always think of silky players, don't you, with a maverick. Maddison's obviously not out there. Kulusevski, they have got those types of players. The Thomas Frank DNA is very different than the Tottenham DNA in some ways. Hans Postecoglou, I felt suited the sort of Tottenham DNA of playing total football irrespective of what's going on in a game. And he won a trophy for them, but had real difficulties in the league. What I would say with Thomas Frank is he's going to have to be true to himself in respect of the fact that I think when you're having such a bad time, I think playing out from the back and trying to sort of play football through a horrific run of results is just not the way to go for any team. You build your confidence back up through simplicity. We saw it with Manchester United with Michael Carrick, how he's gone back to a more simple system and putting square pegs in square holes. And I think in the second half, certainly having Paulinho at right centre-back is not a square peg in a square hole, but it's something that he had to do. But what it did, it meant that ultimately they had a back four, they had 4 in front, and they had 2 up top. So they had an out in terms of when they played the ball forward. And they just made the game a lot more simple with their system and their style of play. And I think that unless you're an exceptional team, it's really difficult to play what I would call Pep Guardiola Manchester City style football through the lines. You've got to be exceptional to do that. You really have. You've got to be some of the very best technical players out there and have amazing combinations, because the other teams are so well prepared in respect to their defensive structures. If you're not, they'll be all over you and they'll counter-attack off the back of it. And we saw the first goal that Manchester City scored where Basuma gets caught in the centre of midfield. Is a perfect example of that. Perfect example of where, a player that's not quite there basically just gets rushed on. They jump onto him and all of a sudden they're off, and Semenyo, Cherki are in those channels against Dragusin and against Paulinho. So that didn't suit at all the back three and also the style of play. So it was just more simple in that second half for Spurs. And they're torn between a little bit maybe the Tottenham DNA of football that we want to see, exciting and sort of really sort of good combinations and sort of really talented players, but they haven't quite got that right now. They haven't got Maddison and Kulusevski and some of their best players out there. So simplifying it and having two forwards that can run, that are physical, that can cause problems like Colomboani and Solanke. And I actually think Xavi Simons, who I think struggled since he's come, I actually thought he was really good. I actually thought he was really good and he kept going, to be fair to him. There have been moments in games where I've seen him drowned out almost in matches where it's just been, he's passed him by. I actually thought today he stood up. I thought Archie Gray stood up throughout the whole game. I thought that, to be fair to Simons, I thought he stood up as well. He always seemed to want it. And I think he could simplify his game a little bit more. I think when he gets it on that far side, in that channel, on that sort of Spurs left, just, he's got that little bit of a jink, get into a position and just put those little balls in, or those little reverse passes, simplify your game. You don't have to do anything different than that. I always think if you're coming in off a wide area, he's not somebody who's going to go past players with blistering pace and sort of make Mane at Liverpool style runs through. He's more of a jinker. He's more of a sort of a manipulator of the ball. So again, you've got to have an output and an end product, and you've got to be predictable. Unpredictable to the player that you're playing against, but predictable to the players who are in your team, so they know when to time their runs. And just sometimes you played those nice little passes in, those nice little crosses. And I thought Spurs played a really good second half. And in the end, a remarkable point for them, really, from where they were.
Which, not that Spurs fans like to see it this way, does do Arsenal a great favour. This time last week, we were at Arsenal, who just lost to Manchester United, and the storyline was becoming, Arsenal now, they got a tricky week, a game in the Champions League, which they won well, and then they've got to go to Leeds. And what if they lose at Leeds? And they went there and brushed it off, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, we said the Champions League game was unimportant, I think, in the podcast last week because of the fact they're already through. But they had to go to Elland Road and win. They couldn't allow a blip to... Just want to finish on the City, by the way. That's one win in 6 games, by the way, for Manchester City. Just watching Pep Guardiola here do his interview. 1 win in 6. You're not talking here about sort of a blip. You're talking about a pattern of what their results are. They've only beaten Wolves in that time. So, I mean, he'll be going back to Manchester tonight. Well, no one knows how to turn these things around better than he does because he's one of the greatest managers that's ever lived. But, he won't have had many worse runs than that in his time. But anyway, going on to Arsenal, yeah, they had to go to Elland Road and win. They had to go to Elland Road and win. And what an emphatic victory it was. A difficult place to play. A place that if they smell fear or if they smell anxiety, they will be all over you like a rash. However, Arsenal have not done that. They've gone there, they've been professional, they've done the job, they've scored the goals. They physically withstood what maybe would have come their way. And it's a brilliant, brilliant victory for them. I was looking very closely at that yesterday afternoon in terms of how it would go. I was doing the Chelsea 5:30 game, so I was sort of in and out watching a bit of Salford, a bit of Arsenal on another screen. I had Salford on here and Arsenal on there, and sort of between me and Brett, the floor manager, in the Chelsea interview room, we're sort of watching both matches. And Arsenal got the right result, and yeah, it was a very important result for them. Sends a message. Maybe Manchester City. Maybe that's just got into Manchester City a little bit, but you wouldn't have thought so with the fact they were 2-0 up at half time. But that will have maybe when you're travelling down the day before and you think, I wonder if Arsenal drop points again. They don't. So yeah, a brilliant weekend for Arsenal. A brilliant day yesterday. They've done their own job, which is the most important, and that sort of puts them back on track. Get back on the bike when you fall off it, and you will fall off it on the way through to a Premier League title, but get back on it quickly and start going down that road, and they have done. So Arsenal can just be very happy with themselves this weekend, but then today, to get that boost from their arch rivals, their local sort of rivals, is something that they wouldn't have expected. And at half-time, I suspect there might have been a few Arsenal players. If I was back in the day watching that game, half-time, I'd have switched that off thinking, I'm not watching them go and win 4 or 5-0. It'll just depress me and take away the happiness from our game yesterday. But at 2-1, you might have switched the telly back on again. One of those. And at the end of the game, those Arsenal players will be sat down there tonight, whatever they eat now on a Sunday. I suspect it's not a roast dinner. Maybe, you never know. That they'll be thinking, yeah, a week's a long time in football, but we were beaten up and felt down a little bit and dejected after losing at home last week to United. But where we are now, they've recovered brilliantly well and fantastic for them.
And wouldn't you feel a bit flat if you're a Villa fan now? because here was a window. They've actually had 2 windows of opportunity, and they've lost home games to
Yeah.
Everton and to 10-man Brentford.
Yeah.
And genuinely, logic says they could have 6 more points. They didn't. They played 2 football matches and lost them.
There'll be a number of teams thinking exactly the same all season, that we should be 5 points more, we should be 6 points more. I actually think Villa are punching to be where they are. They're doing a brilliant job. Unai Emery and the players, they've got injuries right now as well. So, they're punching, I think, Villa to be in that top 3. I think if you look at their underlying stats as well, they don't quite stack up to where they are. So for me, look, if Villa were to finish in the top 5 this season and get a Champions League space, I think it would be a brilliant post. I do think they could get hunted down. I've thought that for quite a bit, not just in today. I just think if the others get their act together with 14 games to go, Villa, but Unai Emery is their sort of what would be their beacon of hope, because he knows how to navigate and pick points up, and he's a shrewd, wise manager. So I like Villa. I want them to do well. I like the manager a lot. But I think they're really punching hard to stay in the fight, and it'll be interesting to see how they do in this next few weeks. They just need to get their players back and pick things up, and a bit more, a bit more consistency if they can in the game. Losing John McGinn a couple of weeks ago in the game, and then obviously I think they've lost. Who did they lose today? Did they lose someone in the game today? I thought someone said they lost someone earlier. Anyway, but for Villa, it's going to be a dogfight, I think.
And on the subject of being hunted down. It has been a really actually exciting as well as winning weekend for Manchester United and for Chelsea and for Liverpool, who were very good against Newcastle last night. So that Champions League race now is an absolute belter. Yeah,
I think they all realise that. I think probably United winning at City and at Arsenal has made maybe Chelsea and Liverpool think, hang on a minute, they could be quite dangerous. We'll take each in order. I mean, we're just watching actually the Manchester United game. They're actually showing the scorpion kicks now. I forgot about that one. Was that the what's he called? He plays for Inter Milan now. I forgot his name. Mkhitaryan.
Yeah.
That was the Mkhitaryan one at Old Trafford, and this is the Giroud one they're showing. This is when I was at this game, and I thought it was one of the best goals I've ever seen live in commentary. Wow. Yeah, that was the best one, isn't it? The Giroud one. But United earlier on, I was sat there in the media lounge, 2-0 up, and I was smirking and smiling. You were in there as well. I was watching it with David Ornstein. And all of a sudden, Fulham just kept going, didn't they? They wouldn't give in. And then when they scored that second goal, I was like, oh, my goodness gracious. And then if you just said you wanted one player to score a goal, if anybody, any United fan, any United coach would have said, I want one player to score a goal, it would be Sesko. Because he's had a real difficult time since he's come to the club. And Cunha and then Burmo just look like Manchester United players straight away. The way in which they take the ball, they attack defenders. And Ahmad's come back from AFCON looking really strong, and Bruno's in great form. So you've got that front four that looks like it's established with Dorgu, who I've not even mentioned. So he looked like he was just playing a bit part role, but that will be so big for Sesko to score a winning goal at the Stretford end. To come back like they did, it very much Manchester United-like. Michael Carrick will have had sort of not making it easy for himself. He'll be there tonight thinking, you know what I mean? Because this was, again, another type of test where a team had sort of lower down the table than obviously Arsenal and City, who are the 2 best teams in the league. So a different type of test, different type of question. He'll have some work to go through with his players, but yeah, a very important day for Manchester United, very important day for Michael Carrick, and a glorious sort of end to the game, which is typical of Manchester United historically, where they sort of, make it very hard for themselves, but then go and score the late winner. And it was a good work down there. You let the ball roll across his body, Bruno Fernandes, just again putting it simply into a box. Sesko just gets it, rolls it, and he's got a really good strike on him. That's one thing he does have. And a big 3 points. I think that would have been a devastating sort of dropping of 2 points in terms of what you're talking about with Chelsea and Liverpool. It's going to need to be pretty consistent now. I think the others are going to really ramp it up, and United look like they're in a good place.
Did you see Liverpool last night?
I did. I got back about 8:10. And at that point, Newcastle were doing really well in the game. I was enjoying my Saturday evening. And then they score, and they hit the post, I think. Harvey Barnes hit the post, didn't he? And they were doing really well and look a real threat. They score, and all of a sudden, but the response from Liverpool was excellent. And I've been saying it for quite a while. I mean, Ekatike has been fantastic. I've not been saying that for quite a while. But Wirtz has just got to get himself in that left channel as close to the penalty box as he possibly can, because he really can slow his mind down in those final moments, Wirtz. He's got the real composure, cold mind. I've said all season, I think he drops far too deep. And there is an element of watching sort of Bruno Fernandes now close to Mbeumo, watching Pablo close to Castellanos last night, watching these two. Just get Wirtz close to Ekitike. Get them close together. Get them near to each other. And you'll be in business. You'll score goals because he's got a real sort of what would be quality in tight areas. And he can find the pass. And he can manipulate the ball and understand where he is. He knows where he is. So it's a real unique quality to be able to do that. And that's why Liverpool have paid the money for him. But he looks like he's starting to purr a little bit now. It was a great response from Liverpool in what's been a real difficult time for them. So, yeah, I think Chelsea, United, Liverpool, Villa right now.
What did you feel walking away from Chelsea last night about Chelsea over the course of that crazy 90 minutes?
I mean, I watched Chelsea, and honestly, I can look at them. They look like an under-10s team when they play for parts of matches, and then all of a sudden they can turn into what looks like a real good football side. You know, that's got a real energy about them and some good quality players. You'd have to say Liam Rossini will look back upon it, and he made the 7 changes, which I'm not going to criticise him for, because I actually think that can be deemed as brave. I hear a lot of managers talking about, I trust my squad, but they play the same team near on every single week. They don't trust the squad. Actually, to change your players when he's had the sort of run of games that he's had is in some ways, he's admirable. He said to those players, I want you to go out there. He said to Gittins, he said to Delap, he said to Garnacho, he said to Hato at left back, Badiashile, get out there, go and play. I trust in you. Go and play. But too many changes. It's too many changes. I remember the most difficult games I had for United were near the end of my career. A couple of games whereby the manager would leave. He used to make 5 and 6, 7 changes regularly from sort of Wednesday to Saturday because he did trust his squad genuinely. But when he made 7 sometimes in an awkward game, West Ham having prepared for a week in better form, you can get caught out with that lack of sort of familiarity with the other players. And it almost feels like you're part of the reserve team all coming in at once. Rather, if you make 3 or 4 and you've got that stability around you of the players who've been playing, you feel like you're cuddled by that sort of what would be consistency that's existed before. So I think he'll learn from that, Liam Rossini, and maybe making those types of changes again. And in the first half, I have to say that West Ham were absolutely fantastic. They dominated the game, even though they didn't dominate possession. They dominated the game. They had the best chances. They were more physical, and that left side of Chelsea was obliterated. And look, Alejandro Garnacho is a player that sort of divides opinion, I think, at times. A lot of people are questioning, is he top class, or is he, where is he in the pecking order? What was difficult to watch last night was a young player like that who's gone to Chelsea. He looked shot to pieces in terms of his confidence on that left-hand side. And I'm not just talking about when Wan-Bissaka kept going off him running forward, but actually when he got the ball, his first touch was back, and then he just kept going back, then he kept giving it away, and it was an awkward, very horrible experience for both Hato and Garnacho on that left side, and Badiashile. But once he changed it, the complete and utter transformation of the game occurred. Actually didn't occur straight away. I thought for 5 minutes of the second half, West Ham were really good. But then when Chelsea got a goal, they're a young side. It's part of their development, but you shouldn't always need a goal to swing the momentum of a game. Obviously, it really helps, but you should be able to change the momentum of a game if you're a top side without that. And again, just a simplification of the football, getting it forward, putting it into the box, getting bodies in there, doing simple things, and going 4-4-2, which is what I've seen in the last couple of weeks by a few teams. And all of a sudden, Chelsea looked a completely different side. So it's what Chelsea we see. I mean, they've won in Napoli. They've come back from 2-0 down against West Ham. They've demonstrated that they've got the quality to win in difficult places or come back in games where they look beaten. So that's a real good thing for them. But they're not the real deal, but they should be in the top 5. They should be in the top 5. And it wouldn't surprise me, and Villa fans are not going to like me for this, if you actually, Liverpool, United and Chelsea all ended up in the top 5. It wouldn't surprise me if they got hunted down, Villa. But not that I want them to, because I actually think that it's good for the Premier League that Villa have emerged and got in there, and they've got a really good manager. So a lot to play for,
I just want to ask one more, and you weren't expecting this, but just outside the top 6, am I fair to believe that one of the most remarkable stories is Brentford's? Thomas Frank had gone, and Burma had gone, and Norgard had gone, and Visser's gone, and a rookie coach called, well, in the view of the public, he wouldn't consider himself a rookie coach, but Keith Andrews come in. They got 36 points. They're just outside the Champions League places, and there was a kind of assumption in football that they were about to crash.
Struggle. Yeah, I think we all did. And I've met their owner a couple of times, and he's a thoughtful, knowledgeable, intelligent, shrewd football operator who knows what he's doing. So that's the one thing that when Keith Andrews was appointed and they lose Mbermo, they lose Visser, they lose Norgard, they lost Tony obviously 18 months ago, you think there's going to come that point, a little bit like Southampton did for many years when they kept sort of trading their players. You know, they kept trading players, didn't they? And eventually it caught up with them. You thought, well, this could be the year that it catches up with Brentford. And I thought it would be the year that would catch up with Brentford. I think it's a remarkable performance of what we're seeing. And again, it's very sort of modern football, but trusting the process of what they do at Brentford and trusting the data and trusting the actual ideas and the players and the recruitment and sticking with those players and believing in the coach and the manager and the decisions that they're making is what Brentford have done better than most in terms of punching well above their weight. So it is an incredible story. And it's been again, we're getting a lot of surprises in the Premier League this year. Teams that are dropping points that shouldn't be, teams that are doing better than we thought, and Brentford are right up there at the moment in respect of sort of what would be team of the year for where we thought they would be. I think that's fair to say.
And that brings us full circle, really, because everything is measured against expectation. They're going beyond theirs, and the whole Tottenham story is around the massive expectation at this club.
Yeah.
And that's been met, at least for 45 minutes today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gary.
Another good football weekend.
Yeah, terrific.
Thanks, Peter.